The kettle clicks off, and for a second, the whole house is yours. Steam off the mug, gray light through a window you didn't choose, the floor cold under your one pair of socks that still has both heels. You've learned to find this quiet before anyone else wakes, and you hold it the way you'd hold something borrowed, because it is. Then the pipe behind the wall groans, a toilet flushes 2 rooms over, and the man whose name is on the lease shuffles past your door without knocking, and the morning stops being yours. You rent a room, not an apartment, and a room in someone else's house, behind a door so thin you've memorized 3 other lives through it. The upstairs guy comes home at 2 a.m. The floor tells you the same 4 footsteps from landing to bed. The front room couple are fighting before you know what about. The door has a lock. You turn it, it does nothing. Sound walks straight through like the lock was a suggestion, and you lie there learning the thing nobody warns you about at the bottom. A door you can lock is not the same as a door that closes. There are rules taped to the fridge in a handwriting that isn't yours. No guests past 10. Label your food. The landlord lets himself in to check the boiler once just to stand in the hall and look at the carpet like he was pricing it. He has a key to your room. You signed something that said he could. You, who have the least, are watched the most, and you pay for the privilege. Here's the part you do the math on late when the footsteps stop. You moved in with no deposit saved and no rental history, nobody to vouch that you pay on time because you'd never been given the chance to prove it. So the terms came back worse. A bigger deposit to offset the risk of you. The room nobody wanted, window facing the wall. You type the real number into your phone, what you hand over each month against what the better places asked of people who already had a cushion, and the ugly truth drops out. People with money rent cheaper than you do. The deposit you couldn't make is why the rent is high. The high rent is why you can't make the deposit. You read it once called a tax on being broke, and from inside this room it doesn't read like a phrase, it reads like the ceiling. Renting isn't the crime. You own nothing, you're building nothing, no equity with your name on it, but you can be gone in 30 days owing no one. That's the trade, honest both ways. The problem was never that you rent, it's what you're renting. Because when you put the phone face down and listen to that floor creak overhead, you understand what the money's been buying all along, and it isn't square feet and it isn't an address. You were paying rent on a door that was never really closed, so you start to wonder what it would cost to turn a lock and have the silence on the other side belong to you. One door, no footsteps overhead. No handwriting on the fridge but your own. What does that cost? The first door in your life that closes behind you and stays closed. That's the number you go looking for next. The first time you turn the key and the lock actually catches, you stand with your hand still on it, waiting for the sound that always came after. The footsteps, the flush, the voice through the wall. Nothing comes. The apartment holds its breath and just keeps holding it, and you understand the silence isn't a pause between other people's noises. There are no other people. One bedroom, one door. For the first time in your adult life, that door, when it closes on a room where nobody can let themselves in. You'd built this up so much you expected to feel triumphant. Instead, it's closer to vertigo. The silence has a texture, a pressure on the ears, and you catch yourself bracing for the 2 a.m. footsteps that don't come. You make tea just to hear the kettle. The click of the mug on the counter is the loudest thing in the place. It's so unfamiliar your body doesn't know how to stand inside it yet, and it cost. The rule of thumb is that housing should eat no more than 30% of your take-home, a line drawn decades ago, written into housing policy as the marker between affordable and stretched. You type your real take-home into the phone, take 30%, look at what that number rents, and the two don't meet. The door that closes sits north of the line, 34%, 36 in a bad month. You do the subtraction. The rule is meant to protect the cushion for savings for the emergency you can't predict, and watch the silence eat a corner of it. Here's what the rule doesn't say out loud. That line isn't where most people live. It's where they're told to live. Down in the rented room, you blew through it without a choice, because the room nobody wanted still cost what it cost, and there was no cheaper door. The people most likely to break the 30% rule are the ones with the least room to break it, paying 40, 50 for worse, while the rule sits in a pamphlet describing a life they can't reach. So you breach it now too, but you breach it up by choice, climbing toward the door instead of being crushed under it. Same broken rule, opposite direction, worth 4 extra points of your paycheck, you decide, and you sign. The landlord here is not a man. You never meet one. There's a portal, an auto pay, a ticket that emails you a confirmation number. The boiler gets fixed by someone who texts a 2-hour window and rings the bell, rings it, waits. At the bottom, the man with power over your space stood in your hall pricing the carpet. Here the power is real but faceless, and somehow that costs more and intrudes less. Part of what you pay for is the distance between you and whoever owns the walls. That night you lie in the dark in a room that is only yours, and out of habit you wait for the floor above to tell you a stranger is home. The ceiling says nothing, and the nothing is so loud you sit up. You'd thought silence was an absence, the removal of noise. It isn't. It's a presence, a sound of its own, and it's been waiting your whole life on the far side of a door you couldn't afford to close. The silence cost more than the room, and it was worth every dollar, but under the relief a smaller question is turning. If you'd pay 4 extra points of everything just to stop hearing other people, if that's what the money was for, not the extra closet, not the address, then what exactly have you been buying all along? It's starting to feel like it was never the rooms. You wake up and you don't know what time it is, and that's the first sign something has changed. For years, your body kept time by other people. The upstairs footsteps, the auto pay date, the fight in the front room that started every Sunday like a church bell. Now you surface on your own schedule in a good apartment in a neighborhood where the loudest thing outside is a delivery van idling a minute before it pulls away. You slept the whole night through. No one's 2 a.m. became your 2 a.m. And you can't remember the last time you arranged a single hour of your life around the building you live in. You used to plan around the place. Shower early before the hot water ran out. Cook quiet so the rules on the fridge stayed satisfied. Time your laundry, your guests, your music against the gravity of other people pressed up close. Here that whole layer is gone. The building holds still and lets you live, and the freedom that buys isn't space, it's time. Hours that used to go to friction now go to yours. The landlord by now is a faceless system, a property group with a logo and an app that asks you to rate your maintenance request 1 to 5 stars. You think back to the man pricing your carpet and understand what's grown. Rung by rung is not the size of your rooms. It's the buffer, the padding of distance between you and everyone with a claim on your space. And this is where the picture you'd been carrying quietly breaks. You'd always told yourself the ladder was about getting more footage, a better zip code, the upgrade you could point to. You believed it right up until you sat one evening adding up what each move had actually changed, expecting the numbers to be about size. But the footage barely moved between the last apartment and this one. What moved, what you'd quietly paid a premium for every time, was distance. How far the nearest stranger's life sat from yours, how few hours you had to surrender to the building. It pulls at you the old story even as you see through it. You want it to be about the granite counter and the second bedroom because that's a thing you can show people, a thing that sounds like success instead of flight, but you keep landing on the same floor under it. Every rung you climbed, the rent went up and the people got further away, and the two moved together so exactly they had to be the same line. You weren't paying for the apartment, you were paying for the moat. You never bought space, you bought the right to not be reached. And maybe, sitting with that, it's worth turning it on yourself. What are you actually paying for where you live? Not what you'd say at a dinner party, the real line item underneath, then come back because the climb isn't done. If every step up has bought more distance from other people, there's a floor up there where the distance goes total, where the moat goes all the way around. You're about to find out what a person feels standing in the middle of all that bought and paid for remove. And it's about to stop feeling like freedom. This time you didn't settle, and that's the difference you feel walking in, keys in hand. Every place before this you chose against a ceiling, the best door you could afford. This one you chose down from the top, and the rooms arrange themselves around your life instead of the other way around. There's a study, a real one, a door you can shut on the work so it stops following you to bed. You've stopped negotiating with the building entirely. That, it turns out, is what real money buys in a home. Not luxury exactly, but the end of compromise, never having to want the room to be different than it is. And the premium, when you look at where it goes, is almost funny. You're not paying for marble. You break down what the jump in rent buys over the good apartment, and nearly all of it is the absence of other people sold back as features. Soundproofing, walls built so no one's life leaks into yours, a separate entrance so you come and go without passing a soul. A concierge who signs for your packages so you never make small talk with someone holding a box. Every line says the same thing. You are paying in cash for the engineered removal of human contact. The richer the building, the better it is at making other people disappear. That's the product, what the number was for the whole way up, and only here is it priced out loud enough to read. The concierge knows your name. You notice it because it's nearly the only thing left. Morning, and your name, and a nod, and the door held, and that's the human texture of your day now, one rehearsed exchange with a man paid to be pleasant. You think about the front room couple whose fights you knew by heart, the upstairs footsteps you could have mapped, the landlord pricing your carpet. You hated all of it. You paid every rung you had to make it stop, and it stopped. The hallway here is carpeted so thick it eats your own steps, and most evenings you walk it end to end and meet no one, and the not meeting is the thing you bought. So why do you find yourself some nights leaving the door open a beat longer than you need to, listening down the muffled corridor for a sound that doesn't come? You ran the numbers and they were honest. You got exactly what you paid for. The silence, the distance, the clean engineered remove. What they didn't price was the other side of the same coin. The accidental hello you didn't have today. The face you didn't pass. The small unplanned friction of other people that you spent years and a fortune sanding smooth, and that you are only now in a hallway that swallows your footsteps beginning to miss. Every wall that kept the noise out kept the people out too. You close the door. It's heavier than any you've owned, dense, expensive, and it shuts with a low muffled weight, not a click, but a soft final compression of air. You've waited your whole climb to hear a door close like that, and tonight, with your name still warm in the concierge's mouth, the sound lands a half-second different than it used to. Same door, same money. Same silence you fought to buy. It just doesn't sound anymore exactly like winning. There's one more door above this one, where the distance goes all the way around. No concierge to learn your name because there's no one to pass at all. You're about to find out what that last door sounds like in the silence you spent your whole life paying for. The elevator opens directly into your home now. No corridor, no neighbor's door, no number on the wall. The elevator is the corridor and it answers only to you. You step out into the penthouse and the city lies down below the glass, small and silent and yours, and there is no one. Not on this floor. Not above it. You've reached the top of the thing you climbed, and the top is a place with no one else in it. You set your keys down and the sound travels across the room and comes back, because there's nothing soft and human left to absorb it. You spent your whole life buying distance from other people, one rung at a time, and here it is, complete, gone all the way around. There's no concierge to learn your name because there's no lobby you share, no one to pass. The management is an email address. The nearest life is a floor and a fortune below, sealed off by the same soundproofing you once read as luxury. You wanted the noise to stop. You did the math every time, and every time the answer was pay more, be reached less. The math was never wrong. You just couldn't see from the bottom what the far end of that line looked like. From down in the rented room, listening to a stranger take off his shoes at 2 a.m., total silence sounded like the dream. You couldn't have known it was also the bill. It comes slowly, the way the real things do, standing at the glass with the city muted behind it. The silence you bought has a cost you couldn't see from the bottom. The same walls that finally kept everyone out keep you in. Every dollar that bought you removed from other people bought them removed from you. You can't be reached, and so you aren't. The footsteps you once mapped, the fights through the wall, the man pricing your carpet, and you hated every bit of it, you were right to, and you paid a true price to be free of it. You just didn't read the rest of the receipt. The friction you sanded away was also the contact. The thing pressing in on you was also the thing letting you know other people were there. I'm not going to tell you it was a mistake. It wasn't. The room was real. The tax on being broke was real. The 30% line you blew through with no choice was real. Wanting out of all that is not a flaw. The honest part, the part nobody hands you with the keys, is only that silence is a thing you can buy too much of, and the amount you actually need is smaller and stranger than the amount you can afford. Somewhere down the ladder there was a door that closed enough. You walked right past it because the number kept saying climb, and the number doesn't know how to stop. So before you go, let me leave you with the question this whole climb was really asking: how much silence do you actually need? Not how much you can reach, not how much would look like winning, how much before the quiet stops being rest and starts being absence. Sit with your own number, and if this is the kind of question you turn over in the dark, the kind nobody around you says out loud, stay, subscribe. We do this here, the slow, honest arithmetic of what the money's actually for. I think you'd fit, you cross the room. You open the door, heavy, dense, the most expensive door you've ever owned, and step through and let it close behind you. It shuts the way it always shuts now, slow, soundless, a soft final press of air against the silence. The lock catches, and the sound it makes, the small, certain sound you spent your entire life climbing toward, the one that used to mean alone at last, stands there in the empty penthouse and means simply all alone.